Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on a Tuesday. Wow, September 6th. What an incredible opening weekend we just experienced in college football. Some incredibly close games, a lot of excitement, huge crowds. Hey, if you think college football is going anywhere, you are clueless. The fans have been chomping at the bits, especially down in Gainesville. They were doing the Gator Chomp Saturday night late against Utah. But this is what we've been looking for. And, the portal and NIL, put all that in the on the side. It's about the games, and that's what's going to save college football. We should have Frank Duffy on with us here momentarily, and Jimmy Hodge is with me now. We'll be joined in the second segment by Connor O'Gara, Saturday down south, down in Orlando, getting his thoughts. There are a lot of them, I bet, on the games over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Last night, Clemson and Georgia Tech there, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the Chick-fil-A kickoff classic. So lots to cover. And I think we did pretty well on our predictions of the games. Jimmy and I both had Utah. I wanted Florida to win the SEC. Utah was a 2.5-point favorite. But man, Florida held their ground. And Anthony Richardson, a year ago, when Buddy Martin first started coming on the show with us, we talked about it, and he was really high on Anthony Richardson. And I know why. We all know why. This kid can play. He's going to run it a lot. So I hope Florida has a good backup quarterback, because you run the ball a lot, you just expose yourself. But he can throw it and he can run it. He's not just a good athlete. This kid's a quarterback. And regardless of where he is on the preseason picks of the top quarterbacks and all, I think Anthony Richardson, if he keeps going like he did the other night, 11 carries, 106 yards, he finds ways to put you in a position to win. So it's going to be a lot of fun watching Anthony Richardson's career. Hey, we're here every Monday through Saturday on Sidelines, www.sidelines.live. Hello, everybody listening. Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, Lake Martin, Central Alabama, a part of the Radio Alabama group, and over in Atlanta and all over. We appreciate you and all of our sponsors, because we're broadcasting live from one of our sponsors, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m., 6 p.m. Service department Saturdays, 7:30 to 12:30. Always there to serve you, and they will deliver anywhere. You find a car or truck, SUV on the website. If everything adds up, you can come in here and be out in less than 20 minutes in a new vehicle. They have over 700 used cars, trucks, and SUVs as well. Part of the Red River Auto Group. They will go anywhere and deliver. So don't forget that. Jimmy, you've digested a lot, watching a lot of football in the last few days. What are your takeaways up to this point? I know Frank's going to be joining us here in a second. I'm really interested in hearing what he's got to say about LSU and why Keyshawn Butte has reacted the way he has and taking any reference to LSU off his Twitter account. There's probably a reason for that. But, Jimmy, your thoughts?
Well, we just had a bunch of crazy games. I mean, it just told you, starting on Thursday night, going through Friday night, and then the weekend, that there's just no way to predict anything that's going to happen. I mean, how on earth would there be any person in the country, excuse me, watching that LSU Florida State game with just over a minute left? Florida State is up by a touchdown. They got the ball at the 2-yard line. I mean, any grass cutter coach in the country would have either just handed the ball off or run a quarterback sneak. And even if you don't make it, you have a extra point distance field goal, even closer than that, to put you up 2 scores, and you pitch the ball to a running back and fumble. I mean, you couldn't make that up. You couldn't even dream that happening. And Frank himself was telling me, he said, Rhonda and I, we were uh, on the way up to the top of the dome so that we could get a head start out of there. But we were, obviously still going to watch that series. And when they ran that play and fumbled, I mean, you could just see the looks of the players, the coaches on the sidelines. I mean, that's impossible. There's no way that could have happened. And yet, immediately LSU starts driving down the field. They gain 30, 40 yards in like 2 or 3 plays. Go all the way down, and then the controversy.
Jimmy, when you look at, and Frank's going to join us here a little bit later in the show. He just let me know something came up. He's going to be on in about 25 minutes. When you look at Florida State's about to make it, touchdown, go up 31-17. Yeah, I'm with you. You know what the play reminded me of? Seattle versus the Patriots in the Super Bowl 4 years ago, when they tried that little pitch pass right up the middle on the 1 yard line, and it was intercepted by New England, by Malcolm, the defensive back who played at West Alabama over in Livingston. That's what that reminded me of. How about you? I mean, would you agree? I'm thinking, Jimmy, are you there? Okay. Well, that's what it reminded me of. Reminded me of that play. And I just don't know how somebody can go and do that with, Florida State. They won the game, but they put themselves in a position there at the end where they could have easily lost it. That was a surprise. And I'm not surprised at all, some of the stuff. But Brian Kelly, man, is getting crucified in the media. I don't know what's going on with that, but this is his first game, and he's being criticized for calling out one of his players for fumbling a couple of punts. Coaches, you don't do that, but I don't think that these predictions of Brian Kelly, a one and done, and he may not make it through the year. This is we've got a bunch of teenage drama queens out there that just react to everything that happens, and I just don't understand it. Where people come up with this. Jimmy, let me know when you're back with us. It's mind numbing to think of what is happening out there in this world. So, college football is underway. We got so many games coming up, and I'm telling you right now, I think that where we are in college football, it's really exciting. And I think really what I'm seeing is you've had a lot of you've had a lot of people in this off season making all these apocalyptic predictions about college football's future. And honestly, I think the game is in great shape. I mean, what we've seen, Jimmy, I don't know where you went, but we've seen, I was talking about the reaction about Brian Kelly's comments about his punt returner dropping a couple of balls. And, I understand he's angry, but publicly, calling out a guy, a coach, you're supposed to take that blame, and everybody knows what happened. You don't need to pile on, but the reaction's not been good. Keyshawn Butte, I don't know what he's doing, taking everything to do with LSU. He does not need an internal. If these guys are going to react this way after one loss, he needs to get control of the locker room. It's really unusual. There's so many. I mean, Jimmy, LSU fought like, they played a full 60. They didn't play a perfect game. Neither did Florida State. But, I think there's a lot of football to be played.
Well, let me ask you, at what point did you lose me when I was
I don't know
talking?
Yeah, we were just really, you had just talked about what happened at the game, and you were really harping on the fact that what coach would call for a pitch out like that on the goal line with a minute and a half or so left. And then I compared that to Seattle versus New England in the Super Bowl, when on the 1 yard line, and you do that stupid pitch, and the Patriots intercepted the ball, and you lose. You had the game won, and you did that. That was foolish.
Yeah. Well, what was so bizarre about that Seattle Patriots game was Marshawn Lynch had just gained almost 5 yards on the first play, and so they only had a foot left. To score what would have been the winning touchdown. And what was so bizarre was that the Patriots were last in the league in holding opponents inside the 2 yard line once their opponent had the ball, in that situation, second and goal from that distance. And the Seahawks, I think, were second in the league in scoring from that position, and it was absolutely bizarre. But and I know we're switching to a similar play like that, but the reason Belichick does really connect because to college football, because he and Saban are probably each other's closest friend in the sport, and the work ethic that so many teams have gleaned from Belichick, and then Saban picked it up, and Saban has so many coaches from his tree that also use this process. But the reason that Butler was able to intercept that pass in the Super Bowl was the fact that they had looked at hours and hours of tape, and they could tell by the way the Seahawks lined up that they were going to throw that slant pattern. So the connections between the greatest coaches in the game and college football are there, but it was absolutely just bizarre. There was no way to explain it. And then again, at the end of the game with LSU being able to run that final play when Taylor had gotten tackled inbounds, and when they changed the rule resulting from the final play of the first half of the 2019 Iron Bowl, if a team doesn't have any timeouts left and you make a first down, if there's less than 3 seconds left, you're not supposed to be able to run another play. And the reason being is that the clock does stop in college football for a first down to move the chains, but there are so many players on the offensive side of the ball that are scattered out all over the field. Yeah. There's no possible way they can get lined up within that time and then be stationary for a full count before the ball snapped. But yet they went to replay. They stopped the game for 5 minutes. And basically, once again, they just gave LSU an untimed down. And you're not supposed to be able to do that. I'd like to maybe see if we could get Steve Shaw on that to clarify kind of what happened there, because that was also bizarre. But again, you could not have predicted that in a million years, Jimmy, how that game ended.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm going to say this. that there was review going on of the LSU player, was his knee down or not? They put on that 1 second. Here's the next question. I would have gone for 2, man. They've already had a field goal blocked earlier, had some special teams issues, and LSU's defense, they weren't. I just didn't see it going well in overtime. Would you have gone for 2?
I would have gone for 2, but not for those reasons. Florida State, you could just tell after that just absolute debacle at the goal line, after LSU gained like 30 yards on their first 2 or 3 plays, they showed Mike Norvell on the sideline. And you could just tell by the body language. He's going, what on earth did we do? And that was not a coach who had a lot of confidence in his defense, being able to keep LSU from scoring. And the multiple reasons I would have gone for 2 would have been, first of all, you're playing with house money if you're LSU. You had no business even being in that position to tie the game, much less win it. And I think Florida State was so shell-shot defensively. I just don't think they could have stopped them.
Yeah,
so
Jimmy,
I would have gone for 2.
Yeah. We're gonna go. We got to go to a break, but all the reasons aside, I mean, that was their best chance to win the game, and they get the extra point blocked. But that's college football. We're gonna talk more after this quick break on Sidelines.
Kitchens and bathrooms make a home, and the design teams at Kitchens Unlimited know how to make kitchens and baths. They know it all because they have seen it all. Kitchens Unlimited has been designing and remodeling the Mid-South's kitchens and baths for over 50 years. Check out their showroom at 3550 Summer Avenue or visit them on the web at kitchensunlimited.net.
If you have a crash, dent or ding, go to G.E. Patterson and BBG for Tom Martin's Body Shop.
Come on down to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, located on Historical Square in Collierville, Tennessee. Hewlett & Dunn is the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, stocked with Southern brands you know and trust. And a new inventory arriving all the time. Do yourself or someone you know and love a favor and visit this store. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
As an agricultural producer, no matter where you farm, minimum tillage is a primary concern each and every season. At House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, we manufacture equipment to help you maximize efficiency when planting and watering a crop. Pieces like the pulverizer, bedder roller, 3-bar do-all, and bed conditioner assist you in optimizing seedbed preparation and ultimately your bottom line. Visit HouseIndustriesInc.com to locate the dealer nearest you.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with more Sidelines. Interesting discussion Jimmy and I are having about what happened in that Florida State LSU game. Jimmy, all right, let's switch gears now. A couple of other things that I noticed over the weekend. Kentucky, their left side of their offensive line, they've got freshmen playing. They can't run the ball. I mean, they had, 50 yards against Miami of Ohio? Wait till they get to Gainesville. I'm not saying Florida has the big blue wall again, great defensive line, but Kentucky better find a running game quickly, okay? Definitely Jordan Travis of FSU is a really good quarterback, but some notes that I took. I was listening to Chris Doering last night on the Buddy Martin show, and Buddy's going to be with us in hour number 2 this morning. Chris Doering talking about LSU's offensive line is undisciplined, and he doesn't think their quarterback is very good. I think he's a heck of an athlete. He did rally them on that last drive, but the narrative now is they didn't get the win, but heck, that kid at the end, he came through. So I don't agree with that. But Brian Kelly calling out his player, LSU's players aren't happy with that. Nobody should be. I mean, the coach takes the hit on that. You protect your players. You get to them on the side. Over the weekend, Georgia, we're going to talk with Jordan Hill in the second hour. Georgia scored the first 7 times they had the ball. They beat Oregon 49-3. I don't know what in the world is going on there. Oregon, you thought would put up a better fight than that. Georgia's they look to be a really good football team this year, and we'll talk about it. But I think too, and I'm talking Southern games. Auburn 42-17 over Mercer, had a long rain delay, but 2 interceptions by TJ Finley. Auburn doesn't have a quarterback yet. They don't. They're playing 2 because they don't have one. And Zach Calzada, he's somewhere out there in the wilderness. He'll be there at some point, I think. But Auburn doesn't have a quarterback yet, and they've got to find one. They got some really good running backs. I mean, Jarquez Hunter and Tank Bigsby are a powerful 1-2 punch. And Florida ran the ball for 283 yards against Utah. They averaged 7.3 yards a carry on 39 attempts. That is impressive. Now, like 109 of those yards were from Anthony Richardson running the ball. But my goodness, I will say this: Florida, watch out for the Gators if they can keep running the ball like that. They don't have the Steve Spurrier aerial attack yet, but Anthony Richardson, again, he's going to give you a chance in every game that you play. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind. And Jimmy, when you looked at the end, and Connor O'Gara's on with us right now. Okay, Frank is with us now. Yeah, Frank is on with us right now from New Orleans. Frank, sounds like is it raining in the background down there in New Orleans?
It's just background noise. I think basically the whole damn city's been abuzz for about a day and a half.
Yeah, well, we were just talking about, kind of the takeaways from games over the weekend. We spent a lot of time talking about the LSU Florida State game. And, the 2 things that people are talking about is Brian Kelly calling out his player for a couple of muffed punt returns. I mean, that okay, but this is absurd. People saying that. Yeah,
I don't have a problem with it at all. Let me tell you something. When you can't call out a player at any level, I mean, that's life, right, guys? I mean, you don't perform, you get your ass chewed out. That's the way it happens. I don't have a problem with anything Brian Kelly did. I'm telling you right now. I think they were not as prepared as they should have been on offense. I think they did not have tempo early on. A lot of the stuff that happened, I think it was first game stuff. Look, the first time center snapping the ball. If we score on that first drive, I think the whole night's different. Then you have a lot of the missed tackling. We said that. In fact, Jimmy and I actually remember, Jimmy, we talked about that leading up to that week. When you're not tackling in your camp leading up to that first game, you're going to see it. You saw it on the Superdome floor. You saw the miscues. Look, I take a lot of positives from that game. I really do. You got to remember, we played a pretty good opponent, right? Neutral site, place was rocking. Florida State came, their fans came. I think Florida State, the two best opponents I think that the SEC played was Florida State and Oregon, and I think Florida State would have killed Oregon this weekend. So I'm not really all upset with that. I wish Brian Kelly would have gone for 2. I don't think he read the room. I think he was doing, coach think, just going for the 1. But if you were in that building like I was, section 147, the whole friggin' night, you read that building and said, we don't want to put their offense back out on the field. Okay. I'd rather we just gone 99 yards in a minute. We were playing with casino money. We shouldn't have been even in the damn game. Florida State really should have, Florida State should have really beaten us by 3 touchdowns, honestly. But we came back. We had a puncher's chance, not a boxer's chance, but a puncher's chance. And I think you take the 2-point conversion and try and win it. That said, I don't have a problem with him chewing anybody's rear end out. That's part of football. You got to listen to your coaches. And whether you're a prima donna, NIL, all, world receiver, which, of course, scuttlebutt news is, it's all flying all over social media that Butte's leaving, getting into the portal. Hell, but I just got up, Ronald was not feeling well last night. Just got my coffee. I haven't even checked. He could be in Anchorage, Alaska by now, for all I know. But I will tell you, I have no problems with the way Kelly approached it. I have no problems with the way that Kelly coached his team. And look, there's a lot of piling on right now. That's cool. We get it. When you're a big fish, you're gonna catch a lot of spears when things are going bad. Auburn saw that last year, right? This is our year. This is our year in the crab net, right? So yeah. and people love piling on Kelly with the family and all that bullshit. Let me tell you something. We're taking notes. Keep saying it. We're taking notes because we got a number 5 recruiting class that's coming in. We're gonna play 11 more games. Let me tell you something. Our defense, I'm proud of our defense. Our defense bent, but they didn't break. Yeah, they had bad tackles. Yes, our defensive backs didn't play as well as they did. But let me tell you something. When you get a fumble on a 2-yard line, your offense, your special teams has put you back in a position where you gotta your back is up against the wall. Whether it was a pitch or not, we got that fumble. Our defense got it back, and we had a shot to win that ball game when we really shouldn't have. So, look, throw the dirt on. That's fine. Let me tell you something, Mississippi State. After we get a little work done on Southern, come on in here. We're gonna give you our best. You come into Tiger Stadium. It's still Tiger Stadium, I think. Let me look down there. Yeah, 80 miles away. Yeah. That's still friggin' Tiger Stadium. So, by the way, everybody was having a lot of fun. I saw the Ole Miss meme where it was, "Thank you for all the great play in the SEC, not you." Well, guess what? I put a meme out there that saw 2 crystal footballs and a big old shiny gold trophy that says, "Not you, not you, not you." So I'm telling you, Rob, I don't have a problem with Kelly. I think Kelly's going to win big. I think everybody's piling on. I think it's way too early. What did Mark Twain said? The news of my demise has been greatly over-exaggerated. Yep. I'm telling you, that was not as bad of a performance, and that was not as bad of an outcome. You watch. Florida State's going to win a lot of ball games this year. Yep. They came in. They were a good team. So I really think Jaden Daniels is a good addition to the Tigers. I think we got to work on our offensive line. Our defensive line has to play together. Those are 4 guys that came in on the transfer portal, right? Never played a college football game together. Our defensive line, man, it kills us losing Mason Smith. That was just a freak, goofy, play where he blew his knee out. He's gone for the season. I did see that. Allie Gay, son, look, if everybody's all worried about, people, you can't hit a guy like that. You can't hit a quarterback. You can't spear him. You were gone way too early. We needed you at the end. So got to play smarter. I think we're going to see a lot of improvement, but I'm not as concerned about Brian Kelly as everybody's piling on.
Yeah, and look, we got Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South, joining us now, Frank. And I'll just say this, calling out a player. Look, here's where we're going to start seeing this. If this kid is getting NIL money, hey, buddy, we ain't seen nothing yet. And I absolutely believe in Brian Kelly. And for people to be jumping on him and forecasting doom after one game, hey, this is the kind of stuff that happens in your first game. Remember Nick Saban? They lost to La Monroe his first year.
That's right. That's exactly right. In 1998 and 2000.
Yeah, and as far as Keyshawn Boutte, if he's going to have a pout face, look, man up. You're getting money now in NIL. You're going to get criticism like pro players do. Let's go down to Orlando, talk to Connor O'Gara. Man, I'm glad to have you back on Saturday Down South. One of the brighter minds. Comments and your takeaways from opening, really what I call week 2. I don't call that week 0. They kept score. Week 2, but the big weekend in college football. And thanks for taking time to join us on Sidelines, Connor.
Yeah, good to be here. We got to call it week 1 because then you'd be wondering, well, wait a minute, why is it week 2 if everybody's playing the first game? So it makes sense, but I agree it is a little bit confusing. It is a little bit all over the place. I think seeing what some things that were confirmed that we've been talking about throughout this entire offseason. This sport is more top heavy than ever. There are 3 teams in my mind that can win a national championship, and we saw that play out opening weekend. We saw Alabama assert its dominance against Utah State, big whoop. We saw Georgia, the game that I was at, assert its dominance against an Oregon team that was feeling like, okay, we might be able to kind of slow down this Georgia offense. No. Stetson Bennett played a perfect game. Those 2 teams are not on the same level. It was very evident by probably the beginning of the second quarter of that game. And we see Ohio State kind of struggle with Notre Dame a little bit. I thought that game was going to be a total blowout. They're still able to show some things defensively, though, that make you say, all right, that's much better than last year. And they should be better with Jim Knowles, the guy that they paid $2 million to be their defensive coordinator. So you see those things play out. And then you see the drop-off. And it was obvious. I mean, you see Clemson last night struggling against the Georgia Tech squad that's done nothing but win 3 games each of the last 3 years with Jeff Collins. You see the offensive struggles that we saw from them last year. And then A&M, who was kind of this trendy preseason top 5 team for some ridiculous reason, was not really playing that well against Sam Houston. And yeah, that's a herky-jerky type of game, but you see why there is such a difference between the top 3 and everybody else. And to me, that's the most obvious thing in college football right now.
Look, Connor, great observations. And I agree with you. We've got A&M being 5 or 6 in the polls. That's the one I don't get. And it's being based on playing a lot of true freshmen. I think that's the excitement about it. But let's look at the Florida-Utah game. Utah is the defending Pac-12 champion, their preseason favorite again. I think Florida demonstrated what Billy Napier is going to do at Florida. He's going to have them prepared for every game. I think the Gators, to me, were the best story of the weekend out of the SEC.
Yeah. I had Utah going to the college football playoff, and I think that chance is over now. And I think that chance is over because we've only seen one team at the Power 5 level during the college football playoff era run the table with a 9-game conference schedule. That's the key caveat. And win a conference championship. That was 2019 Ohio State. So that's why I think it's really difficult to expect Utah to just run the table the rest of the way when they have still at least 10 Power 5 opponents left to be able to get there that they need to be able to beat. So I was blown away that Florida was able to respond in those key moments. That's what I was really kind of questioning. This is not a team that has played in a lot of those really meaningful type of football games. I mean, think about it. All the different pieces that they've had to replace since they were in an SEC championship in 2020, especially in the offensive side of the ball. We kind of forget how different their offense really has been in these last couple of years. Not a whole lot of faces that you'd recognize from that group that was number 1 in the country in passing. And Anthony Richardson played a really lights out type of game, the type of game that he needs to play if he's going to be one of the stars of this sport, because I don't really think their passing game is anything to write home about. I still don't after watching that game, but he does things that are truly special. Yeah. And it's one thing if he's going to make a play like the travel that he had on the 2-point conversion, where it's like he fakes him out with the jump throw and then he's able to come back and find a guy open corner of the end zone. But the things that can't happen against Anthony Richardson, and I'll be interested to see if Kentucky makes these adjustments. Utah turned their entire back to Anthony Richardson in single coverage, in man coverage, without a spy. And Anthony Richardson took it, 49 yards, and all he had to do was fake out one guy for a touchdown. Yeah. You cannot do that if you're defending a player of this caliber, because he will do that to you every single time. And that's going to be on film for every defense that defends Anthony Richardson. So now what I want to see with him, how do teams defend him and how does he adjust to that? That's the big question I have about Florida moving forward. I still think they're going to have depth issues defensively, but very impressive opening weekend showdown.
That's what it was.
You know, and we're going to go to a break here in a minute. I know Jimmy and Frank have some questions for you as well. I want to ask you this too. Your thoughts about the way, we talk a lot, Arkansas, Cincinnati. That was a good win. I think a quality win.
There was.
Arkansas. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't think Cincinnati was just going to fade off into the sunset, and they lost dudes. I don't know how many people realize that they lost 9 players to the NFL draft. It's not just Sauce Gardner. It's not just Desmond Ridder. 9 dudes they had. That's why they were playing in the college football playoff last year. And so you watch what they're able to do against a team like Arkansas, and you say, wow, they're just pesky. They continue to fight. That's what Luke Fickell coach teams do. And that was really difficult for Arkansas to be able to kind of distance itself. It's 31-24, 4.5 minutes left in that football game, 3rd and 9. KJ Jefferson has to make a play with his legs just to keep that drive alive, just to keep Cincinnati's offense off the field to prevent them from tying the game. Then, of course, they're able to hold on to the football and win that game. But Arkansas is the 3rd best team in the SEC, and here's why. They have an identity that they can turn to in those close moments against quality teams. What's A&M's identity that they can turn to? Everybody that's been hyping them up in the offseason, what are they really going to turn to? They couldn't find running holes against Sam Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is a troubling sign moving forward. And Haynes King is still not necessarily an accurate quarterback when it comes to the downfield passing game. So I look at that, and then I look at Arkansas where, they have some limitations. They still don't have that go-to number 1 receiver, although I love the play that Jaden Hazelwood made in traffic on that touchdown. And I do think that Trey Knox developing at the tight end position is really key for them. But they have that identity that they can turn to. And I think that Arkansas is a team that's going to be winning probably 9 games, 8-9 games with a really difficult schedule. Some are saying the most difficult schedule in all of college football.
And Connor, we're going to take a quick break, but that was my pick after Alabama and Georgia has been Arkansas. So I was glad to see them get that win. I agree with what you said about KJ Jefferson. He dropped 20 pounds, big difference. We'll be right back with more on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne, Jimmy Hodge, Frank Duffy, Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. Great insight, Connor. And again, Arkansas, I think that was the first time they'd been ranked, playing a ranked opponent in a season opener and got the win in 40-plus years. So huge momentum. And you're right. Alabama had 7 players drafted last year. Cincinnati had 9. They made the college football playoff. That was quite an accomplishment. Frank, I know you got a question for Connor. Let's go.
Well, no, we're just talking about this again, week 1. Now, we've always said that you have the biggest improvement in your team from week 1 to week 2. Some people poo-poo that idea, but I think
Jimmy,
there's truth to that. Yeah, Jimmy poo-poos, but I think there's truth
he's
to
right.
that. Or I'm at least hoping there is. Who do you see after these week 1 performances? Like you said, Texas A&M I thought was very lackluster. Staying in the SEC, who do you see making some strides from getting that first game out to get to that second game so that you start seeing that real team, both sides of the ball, when they get into SEC play? And I think the team that does, at least not my team withstanding, I do think it's Texas A&M, because I was expecting a lot more from them. I didn't have them on Saturday, but I watched that game, and Sam Houston really made them look poor in the first half.
Yeah, and by the way, Sam Houston is basically like replacing their best player, Ramon Jefferson, who was third-team FCS All-American, who transferred to Kentucky, and he's actually out now for Kentucky. Kentucky's backfield took a significant hit because we expect Chris Rodriguez is going to be out still as well, stemming from an offseason DUI. And so I actually think Kentucky is the team that's going to make the biggest step from week 1 to week 2. That was a close game in the first half against Miami of Ohio. It was 13-10.
Yeah, they just
kind of
covered.
get rolling. Yeah, and they were barely able to cover in that game, and they were able to get rolling a little bit in the second half of the opening kickoff return for a touchdown, and they were able to kind of put their foot on the gas, but not a clean game week 1. And Will Levis was not satisfied with his performance. They go into Florida. A Florida team that's got all this buzz, everybody patting him on the back. Anthony Richardson is getting comparisons to Cam Newton, even though we shouldn't be comparing any human being to Cam Newton. Everybody's talking about, man, what a job Florida did. Game 1, Billy Napier. I question what that's going to look like against a Kentucky team that is going to do some different things offensively than Utah. Utah loves to be able to play between the hashes. They utilize those tight ends, Keithy and Kincaid. They love to be able to have Cam Rising line up bunch formations and work the middle of the field, get those tight ends involved, get Tavion Thomas involved. Your area to defend is a little bit different than it will be against Kentucky, which is a
Much
weird
wider.
thing to say.
Yep.
Yeah, Kentucky likes to spread you out now with this offense and the pro-style concepts that they have from the McVay-Shanahan tree. So what Kentucky's going to try and do is stretch that Florida defense out and make them defend in a different way than they had to defend in week 1. If you didn't see Tavion Robinson, the Virginia Tech transfer, he looked a whole lot like Wan'Dale Robinson. And those comps are going to be there all year for him if he continues to have that number 1 receiver type of mantra for Kentucky. Will Levis trusts him. I think that's going to be the story of week 2 in the SEC, is this Kentucky team showing, hey, we're going to be a fixture in the SEC East. We're not going anywhere, and we're still capable of beating this Florida team, and a Florida team that's getting all sorts of love, and they should for beating that Utah squad. They absolutely should. But I think Kentucky goes into the swamp and wins that football game.
You know what? I have a theory, Connor. Every day after a big win like that, if you're still talking about that big win, that's not good. You got to get over it. Like Nick Saban says, the 24-hour rule, because Kentucky's coming down and they're hearing all the talk about how much they're struggling. So that'd be fun. Jimmy, jump in here with Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South.
Well, one thing I wanted to say about that Arkansas-Cincinnati game, the difference in the game was the interception Cincinnati threw late in the first half, which set up, an Arkansas score. And then they also missed 2 field goals. And, I agree with the fact that Fickle has that program in a position that even if you lose 9 players to the draft, that, he's able to bring in guys to fill the gaps. And they played really well in Fayetteville and, in an environment that's not easy to play in. And I think Cincinnati is in a year or two, they're going to, be a big factor and maybe be right there in the Big 12 title chase on a yearly basis. So, I was really impressed with, with how they played and just how solid they are. Just in all areas. And of course, it was just game 1. And like everybody else, they're going to get a lot better. But as far as Florida goes, I will disagree with one thing that Billy Napier said when he first saw this his team. We need players. Well, they've got some players.
Oh, they got them. They got them.
And they got a lot of athletes. I thought that Utah was the better team because of their experience. And every time Florida came up with the big play, Utah answered and got themselves in position offensively to score. And I thought they made some, just maybe some strategic blunders at different times. But Florida, just from an athletic and skill standpoint,
they were more talented
players. The only thing they are missing right now is depth. And the way Napier has started out with his recruiting plan, it looks like he's going to be solving that problem pretty quickly. And another thing that Napier's done, I think that's been brilliant with his fan base, also from a recruiting standpoint, he has under-promised and over-delivered, and fans love that. And the Gators are on the way to really getting a lot of good players, and they've had a big some big surprises already on the recruiting trail. So they are definitely on the rise. But yeah, this could be a real danger game for Florida, because you have that big win against Utah, and when you got a lot of young players, you tend to maybe lose your focus. But I will say this, man, if there's ever a quarterback that's tailor-made to run that spread option running,
yeah,
I'm telling you what, this kid is as good as you'll see.
Connor, along that line with Florida needing players, you're down in Orlando. You also got Florida State and Miami trying to rebuild. Right now, I see what's going to happen is if Florida State, Miami get rolling again, Alabama and Georgia and Auburn and LSU and Tennessee, these schools that have been coming down there and getting a lot of the difference makers out of Florida, they're going to have to go somewhere else.
It's more, recruiting is more national than it was 10 years ago. It just is. And I do think that there's more than enough to go around. And that's the good news. Now, Billy Napier has really made it a priority to get that Sunshine State talent, which I have full confidence that he has the right plan, because, this is the thing that people forget about Dan Mullen before he came to Florida. Dan Mullen, when he was the coach at Mississippi State, signed one 4-star recruit from the state of Florida. It was Cord Sandberg. Cord Sandberg, who didn't even play at Mississippi State because he went to pursue a baseball career before coming back to play quarterback in college years and years later. And so that tells you a lot about all the ground that Dan Mullen was forced to try and make up. And so getting into those IMG academies, those St. Thomas Aquinas, it's not an easy thing to do. And that's what Billy Napier has to continue to build those relationships. Having a new $85 million facility certainly helps that effort. I still think, though, in terms of like their overall projection for this year, I still think they're more like an 8-win team, because I question the defensive talent. I question not just the defensive talent, but more so the defensive depth. When Billy Napier says we need players, he's saying we need depth. We need depth to get through an entire SEC schedule. They have a first string that's good, that's going to make some plays. And I think their defense is going to be better than what I was saying in the preseason. The way that they hung tight against Utah was evidence of that. But I think that we're going to need to see Florida have that depth later in the year when they're dealing with injuries. This was a team that when Ventrell Miller went down last year at the middle linebacker position, they were a disaster defensively. And I still wonder what that's going to look like late in the year when they get into the real meat of SEC play. But for now, they got some dudes up front. They got some dudes that can make some plays for sure. Yeah,
Connor, and I'm not saying Florida or Alabama and Georgia and Auburn and LSU aren't going to be able to come get players out of Florida, but they've been getting a lot, especially Alabama has been getting a lot of the great receivers out of South Florida. Now, the Gators, people put things in perspective. They have been really operating with one hand tied behind their back in recruiting for a while. And Billy Napier is signing this year the first ever player from IMG Academy. I'm no fan of those narcissist academies like IMG. I don't like them. I think you ought to play on your high school team. There's enough of that 7-on-7 in the summers and, speed camps and all that other stuff. High school football, your senior year on your team with a bunch of guys that you've fought with all those years.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. Connor, and now another SEC school, Tennessee. Your thoughts about their win? I know it was Ball State. It was not Utah, Florida, Georgia, Oregon, Arkansas, Cincinnati, anything like that. But I'm impressed with what Tennessee's doing. But they've got to get their pass rush better. You got to have that surge up the middle, off the edge, whatever. But Tennessee is acting and feeling more like themselves in terms of being a challenger. I don't think they're a contender yet, but I think they're a challenger to Georgia. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I haven't beaten Georgia this year. I mean, that's
Go to Smart Cam.
Yeah. I've been on the record for that one for a little bit, and I think that's more of a style thing. That in terms of the way that they want to beat you with being able to spread you out, being able to attack downfield, and having those guys on the outside, in addition to Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt's the highly touted breakout candidate, and then also having somebody like Brew McCoy, I mean, wild offseason that the kid has had, wild college career that he's had just to get eligible at Tennessee. They didn't find out he was going to be eligible until August 26th. And then in the first half of that game against Ball State, you see what it looks like when you have a guy who was debating whether or not he was going to play linebacker in college. I mean, that's the type of frame that he has, and you see the 5-star talent on display. Josh Heupel has done nothing but crank out top 10 offenses the last 4 years. Now, the question with them isn't whether or not they can win an SEC East title. I don't think that's happening this year. I think they're more like a 9-win team. We're going to get a really good idea of just how much this team has improved in that revenge game this weekend against Pitt and Pat Narduzzi. But I do think that they have the ability with this offense to have the number one group in college football. Better than Alabama, better than Ohio State. And also it's partly because of the fact that defensively, they might not have a top 90 defense. Now, there are only 3 teams in the Power 5 era, or in the playoff era, that have been able to win at least 9 games without a top 90 offense or a top 90 defense. Yeah, that's what it was. I butchered that stat completely. But essentially, it's like, how bad can Tennessee's defense be with them still being able to win 9 games? Yeah. And I think that's on the table for them. I love Hendon Hooker. They still have room to improve too. And their ground game is kind of underrated with Jabari Small and Jalen Wright and 4 starters returning on that offensive line. So yeah, I'm high on the Vols. I'm not saying that it's going to feel like 98 or anything like that, but I do think that Tennessee has the ability to be at least a challenger and a team that is able to kind of hang with some of those big boys.
Were you impressed with Spencer Rattler's debut at South Carolina? A couple of picks.
It was about what I expected. And look, everybody's going to want to dunk on Spencer Rattler the second he fails, because partly because of who he is and who he was on that Quarterback One show. And there are a lot of people that are just going to root against Spencer Rattler no matter what. We love to see the bust and the overhyped guy like that. That's just the way that it is. The biggest issue for him is dealing with an offensive line that's vastly different than what he had at Oklahoma. He's not used to running for his life in the way that he was in that opener against Georgia State, where Sean Elliott had those dudes ready to go. And you knew that was going to be the case. That defensive line was firing off the football, and a South Carolina offensive line that returns all these starters, but wasn't very good last year. I mean, that's what gets lost in the shuffle of the way that they finished the season. Their offensive line was pretty bad, and it was still pretty bad in the opener. So Spencer Rattler, you're thinking, what does he do best? Well, he's got an NFL arm. There's no question about it. He can make NFL level throws. But if you're not getting time, it's tough to really make those throws downfield and be able to stretch the field. So against an Arkansas defense that might be without Jalen Catalon, I kind of wonder, will South Carolina even be able to exploit that if they can't protect up front? So it was about what I saw, or it was about what I expected. I love the way that he responded on that 2-point conversion, key 2-point conversion in the third quarter of that game where they're still fighting. And before Beamer ball really kicked in, they needed Spencer Rattler to go out there, use his legs to be able to make a play. I think he's going to have to use his legs a little bit more, probably. That's why he added 12 pounds in the offseason to be able to kind of assert his dominance in that way. But it was about what I expected. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a Heisman Trophy type of season for Spencer Rattler. I do think they have those issues up front, but I do think that he gives you a much better chance to win than the alternative.
I'm going to make a prediction here before we go to Frank. I think Georgia State could be the Cincinnati of the South long term. I mean, because there are so many players in that metro Atlanta area, Frank, where you are, it's just look at it. I mean, there's a lot of talent there, and they keep, last year when Auburn and Georgia State played, you remember Connor and Jimmy and Frank, Auburn was lucky to get the win. TJ Finley threw the game-winning touchdown. We talked with Rex Castillo and Jack Patterson from WRBL Channel 3 in Columbus, Georgia. They cover high school football, the sports guys all over that 7,500-mile radius. They said there were 41 players on the field last year at Jordan-Hare when Auburn and Georgia State played that they had covered during their high school careers. Those are some powerful stats. Frank?
Well, I was just going to say, if there's not a bar named O'Gara and Duffy somewhere near the banks of the River Liffey in Ireland, I'd be really shocked. I do have a question for you. One team we haven't really talked about yet is Auburn. What did you see in Auburn's win? That was a big night for Auburn. They had a lot on the line. They had to come out and look sharp, which I think they did for the most part. What did you think about their win and again, settling down the drums of discontent over the offseason?
Robbie Ashford, that was my takeaway. Was really intrigued by him in the spring, especially after seeing what he did in the spring game. And I think that it was the worst kept secret that there was going to be a true Robbie Ashford package in this offense. The question was, what was it going to look like? How was he going to look like throwing the football? And there are some, Anthony Richardson, Emory Jones type of vibes with this situation that could develop with Ashford looking like Richardson, and then Emory Jones in Finley, the comps there. Because if you're Brian Harsin, and if you continue to see a guy this talented who doesn't necessarily just make you one-dimensional, if he's able to throw the football in that way, then you kind of wonder, how long will he be able to keep the more talented player off the field? Because Robbie Ashford looks the part. And look, maybe I should have known. He spent 2 years working with my guy Joe Moorhead at Oregon. You know, even though he was trying to split his time playing baseball up there.
Connor, can you hold those thoughts? We got time for a couple more minutes after the break. I want you to finish that because that's an interesting angle nobody's talked about, but you are. Kudos to you. We'll be right back. Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4 City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Connor O'Gara, you were making a great point about Robbie Ashford. We got a couple of minutes, and then we'll let you go. But continue, because you pointed out some things that I think a lot of people weren't thinking about.
Yeah. So last year, Dan Mullen dealt with that situation with the emerging talent of Anthony Richardson. While clearly Dan Mullen wanted to see the Emory Jones situation through, a guy that he had spent 3+ years developing. And you kind of wonder about that with Brian Harsin, if a dynamic like that is going to play out. He's obviously put a lot of time into developing TJ Finley, who's been on that roster longer than any other Auburn quarterback, which is a crazy thing to think about. But if the talent is undeniable with Ashford, and if he takes this offense to a different kind of level, those are the types of decisions you have to make as a head coach. And given what's
best for your team,
I mean, do what's best for your team. Be able to have the unknown of Robbie Ashford. I mean, there's a whole lot of film out there against TJ Finley and how to defend him. And if you kind of keep it, if you're able to get pressure on him, that he's a little bit more statuesque in the pocket. Whereas Robbie Ashford, he might make some mistakes. He's going to moving forward, but that type of unknown, that type of athleticism might be exactly what Auburn needs this year.
Yeah, great stuff. Connor, tell people how they can follow you. And again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us. We all really appreciate it. And you are really, really one of the better people out there covering college football.
Yeah, I appreciate that. SaturdayDownSouth.com has all of our great content up right now. A lot of great stuff recapping week 1, looking ahead to week 2. We have the Saturday Down South podcast where we talk about all things SEC all the time, twice a week for you. And we have all of our other websites as well. Saturday Out West is our Pac-12 site. We've got Saturday Road, that's our ACC site. And then Saturday Tradition is our Big Ten site, which I actually came down to Orlando to start back in 2015. So yeah, we have you covered from coast to coast, all things Saturday football. Follow all of our platforms.
Hey, thanks so much. See you again soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
All right. Buddy Martin joins us right now. This man needs no introduction. Like the Tonight Show. Just dun, 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 dun. I mean, by the way, buddy, I was watching in the in Lee Hall there at the Cherry Farm last night. I was watching on my computer the Buddy Martin show, and it was fantastic. I'm telling you, folks, Buddy Martin show, Facebook, Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You got to watch it. I mean, Buddy had Shane Matthews on, Steve Spurrier's first quarterback, 14-year veteran of the NFL. Shane now on the Florida Gator radio broadcast crew. Absolutely great stuff with him. Then he goes to Chris Doring's got a touchdown. Doring's got a touchdown. Chris Doring, walk-on, Florida legend, one of the best players and a true Gator. And when he talks about the Florida fan base, you know what? He speaks from the heart because, again, He doesn't just talk it. He walks it. He lives it. You had Franz Beard on there, the Iron Duke. Buddy, it was just great, great stuff. And folks, you need to tune in at night to the Buddy Martin Show and GatorBaitMedia.com. But Buddy, man, and by the way, I agreed with what you were saying last night. When you started coming on this show last year, September 11th, when you gave that funny story about, I'm taking the old way, the old Gators go from Ocala to Gainesville. I was like, man, this guy is awesome. Solid gold. It was like, being at Sun Records in Memphis down on Union, Elvis came in for a demo, and they were like, I think you're going to play. Buddy, and sorry about Saturday. We had to start a little bit early, and I told you that Friday, and I didn't know I guess you didn't see it, but sorry about that. But we missed you on the round table, but we're looking forward to Saturday. But we got you today. The sun is shining. Things are good. Don't fall in love on the first date, but it's hard not to after
Hang on. First date's over. The engagement now has been announced. The love fest is underway. The romance is here. The wedding is coming soon. They love them some Billy Napier. Okay.
Well, we watched it, man. Audrey and MJ and I were over at the house Saturday night. We were going crazy at the end because I texted you and Ben Troop and Franz Beard and Ben was. I mean, look, that was the kind of win that Florida needed. And I think it just, you're not going to win them all, but if you fight like that, you're going to win most of them.
Can't win them all unless you win the first one. So
right.
There's so many different ways to go here. But let me just say quickly, I go back to my criticism of the people. And hello, Frank, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good morning, buddy. How are you, brother?
I'm doing good. And the idea that the so-called national media, whoever, could for 6 to 8 months absolutely ignore Anthony Richardson. I don't care what you say. People say, oh, no. I'm sorry. I saw all the lists. I debated this with Shane Matthews even this morning. And he said, hey, look, they're national media. They don't know. Well, then don't write it if you don't know. Don't put a list of 10 quarterbacks out there, which I ran again on my show. 10 people that are better than Anthony Richardson, quarterbacks. Don't do that. I'm sorry, you don't know enough about it. I barely know enough about it, and I'm there all the time. So he's what I thought he was going to be as advertised. What a performance by him. What a performance by Billy Napier, calling the plays for him just perfectly. It was, and I'm going to just say the superstars of the night belong to the Gator Nation and the fans in the swamp, most of which are by the beloved Orange and Blue Bloods, okay? They are there. And Billy said yesterday, one thing he loves about this team is they got fight. They got down early. They fought back. And you kept thinking, well, can they do this? Do they have the depth? Props to Utah, Kyle Whittingham. Cam Rising's a hell of a football player. And they are good. That's why they're ranked 7th in the country. But on a magical night in the swamp, everybody came through. The fan base, the coach, the quarterback, even the much maligned defense with the interception at the end, which was what a moment that was. That when that ball was intercepted by what is called the old man, he's been around for 5 years now. He's had 1,600 snaps. The place erupted and went crazy. What a night in the swamp. Right now, I don't care about Kentucky, whatever it might be. My friend Chris Doring is in a little trouble because he kind of picked Kentucky earlier in the year. But let's see what that brings. But let's take this night. Football players only allowed 24 hours, but this night can go on for a long time, and it will go on for a long time in Gator football history as one of the most magical nights in the swamp.
Buddy, you, me, and Stat Tiger were the only one that had Florida. I'm telling you, I listen to national media all over the place. We're the only ones that. And I will tell you, I walked down Charter Street, this street right here down to Harris, with a ticket in my hand.
Yeah.
I only had the points, but I had the money line as well.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the thing that I kept saying was the swamp, in my opinion, is worth 4 points. And if the crowd in the swamp shows up, I said, that team coming in, if they have to play that mystique of the swamp at a night game, I think that adds 4 points, and that literally was the difference in the game.
Great call. Yeah, you put your money where your mouth was, Frank.
I did.
You're right. Now, I want to say I picked Utah on Tuesday. I picked Utah. I just don't know.
Well, Frank, I mean, buddy,
I didn't know you were here. How you doing?
I'm doing well. But I will say this: it was exactly the type of game I expected, though. I thought Florida was going to be ready. And again, I said in an earlier segment, one thing Billy Napier was wrong about when he first saw his team in a practice saying, we need players. They've got players. They just need depth. But I'm still trying to figure out how Utah lost at the end. You know, I mean, in a worst case scenario, that game goes into overtime, and I just have no idea.
Yeah, you're right.
And you're right. Rising's a really good player. Where on earth was he throwing that ball? This is the kid that came in at midseason as the starter last year, takes Utah to the Rose Bowl, and he's been around, started his career at Texas. But when you obviously see nobody open in the end zone, he knows to airmail that thing out of the end zone and then try it again on third down. But I also thought Utah, on a strategy standpoint, on the offensive side of the ball, made a couple of blunders. The play in which Florida stopped them on the fumble at the goal line.
Right.
I think that was second time in a row they ran that play. And that's a situation where you have to have Rising on an option keeper or something like that. He's such a good runner. And then, again, at the end, I thought they had wasted a couple of timeouts on that possession. After they got into Florida territory, they'd thrown a couple of short passes that, didn't get past the line to gain where, you could stop the clock when you make a first down, and the offense is able to get up to the line of scrimmage and be ready to snap the ball. So by I thought wasting those two timeouts after Rising's long run and then the pass completion down to the 3 or 4 yard line, I thought that eliminated them from the idea of trying to run the ball, because if they didn't make it, they were worried about time running off the clock. And then if you get a false start, if you're disorganized, you get a 10-second runoff. So I thought they kind of limited themselves on the play options that they could call. And again, there's just no way that you throw an interception in that situation. You just throw it away.
Yeah.
And then on third down, if the same thing happens, you just take the extra point length field goal and go to overtime and take your chances. But it was a great game. I thought both teams were almost evenly matched. Florida, I thought, had the athletes advantage, more skilled players, but obviously, they're not there from a depth standpoint. Utah just had a really good overall team. They were experienced. They responded every time that Florida made a big play with a big drive. So it was a great matchup.
Buddy, I had picked Utah 34-30 over Florida. And I wanted the Gators to win. I wanted them to win. I'm also I don't get emotionally caught up when I pick games. I knew the game was being played in the swamp, but I was like, well, look, this game is going to be played on the field, and the crowd was just a huge factor. Jimmy talks a lot about Jordan Hare voodoo. Same thing with the swamp. That was like the swamp that we all are used to. There wasn't any apprehension. I believe the Florida fans that went to that game knew they were going to win the game. They weren't hoping. They knew they were going to get the W, and they did, and they helped will that team to the victory.
No doubt about it. And I want to say that in answering to Jimmy, you try throwing that ball with 90,000 people screaming and yelling and hollering. I mean, it was not exactly easy. And I reversed my pick from Tuesday night when I thought of two things. I wrote this down. Number one, I've seen the magic in the swamp. I know it's possible. Number two, the best team, and if you call Utah the best team because they're ranked 7th, doesn't always win. Yeah. So I flipped it, and I went Florida on Thursday night, and picked him. Now, I didn't put any money like Frank did on it. But I just want to say that give credit to the play in the goal line. And when Amari Burney, who will forevermore never buy a drink in Gainesville, for sure, made that pick, diving pick, not an easy pick.
Yeah,
and
no, it was a hell of a
Ventrell Miller was fighting off the tight end and made that play. It was unbelievable. Swamp, one of the greatest nights in history. The people showed up. The people made a difference. The ball players balled out. The quarterback is special. And the coach is here to say he ain't getting out of town without a marriage license.
Yeah, the whole the best thing about that, I mean, and Frank made a great observation, great call about that crowd being such a factor. And you have seen the Swamp. I mean, great crowds. That's nothing new in the Swamp. But the fans, there are fan bases out there that go to the games hoping they're going to win, and there are fan bases. Alabama fans know they're going to win. Okay. And in a way, it can be boring being an Alabama fan right now because you just destroy people. Look what they did to Utah State. And you say, well, what do you mean? That they got the win? Well, you almost have this crazy love of a close game. And then, of course, you want to win those. But winning close games like Florida did, I think it pulls you together, makes you a closer team. Frank, I know you had a question there.
No, I was just saying, what does Buddy see going forward as what do you see going forward for Florida? I mean, this is going to be a big game with Kentucky. I think the divergence of these two paths that they're on, I think it's going to be a fascinating game. I see Florida winning another one, and I think they keep that momentum going. I really do.
Let's leave it right there for a second and go back to the win in the moment and what happened at Steve Spurrier Florida Field. And I think what we see, and you alluded to this, Rob, is you see Gator fans believing again. They're believing, not just talking, they're believing. And as you know, we have an Orange Blue Blood program. We so-called baptize people and taking the pledge and believing again. And I think that's what you're talking about. You gotta believe before you can expect. So they were used. Now, good question, Frank, and I'll put it back to you guys. Florida wins a game it's not supposed to win. Now 1-0. The projection of this team was 7.5 wins. I went over. Frank, I believe you went over on that too.
Yep.
And I think maybe Jimmy did. But the bottom line is that we don't know the ceiling, but we know what the floor is not. It's not 6-6 like some people have been calling it. So do the simple math. You can't get ahead of yourself. Now, look, fans can. That's what they do. Media makes predictions or whatever. And I understand that. The coaches want to say, oh, no, one game at a time. And they're right about that. But think about this team right now. I'm holding up a roster. Take a guess. How many seniors do you think is on that squad for Florida?
7.
You're correct. It's amazing. That's correct. And this team, not only is it winning now, a building block is in place here without getting too far ahead. Let's let the Gator fans revel then Saturday night. It's going to be another one on this Saturday night. Kentucky, who's now obviously playing up again. I think they're about 4 or 5 point underdogs. I believe they were 7. I'm not sure you guys know about that. But I want to say, Frank, to answer your question, this team, I think, will beat Kentucky. I haven't made that pick yet. But if they do, now they're 2-0 going to their third game of the season, which they should win easily. And now they go to Tennessee. What is possible? This is not just an 8-win team we're looking at. We could be looking at a whole lot more.
Yeah, buddy, we're about to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get more into it. But this is something that no one's really talked about. And I brought it up earlier with Connor O'Gara and with Jimmy in the first segment and Frank. Florida ran the ball, 39 carries, 283 yards. I think that's 7.3 yards a carry.
Right.
Anthony Richardson, 11 carries, 106 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they get a good backup quarterback. But in all that, running the ball like that, and a guy that you've had on your show, Osiris Torrance. Wow. 6'8", 340.
Road grader.
Let's take a quick break, talk more about it after this on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
And buddy, Billy Napier's been talking, and you've been saying it. Florida has 7 or 8 offensive linemen they're really comfortable with. You want to have 10 or more, but man, the road graders, and they just took control of that game, running the ball like that. And Utah's got a good defense. I mean, I had a friend of mine, Mike Matheny, texted during Saturday's show. He said Utah's a lock. They got 5 Samoans and those big, strong, tough linemen. And man, again, that's a good team that you beat. And Kentucky's coming in. You know, Kentucky is starting, I think, a couple of freshmen on the left side. Chris Rodriguez is out. How does Florida approach this game? Because you know one thing, Kentucky is hearing about how they can't run the ball 50 yards against Miami of Ohio.
Yeah. I think Florida's defense is at least as good as Miami of Ohio. Okay. And I think that is a common theme. That's the one that the national media is talking about. Anthony Richardson, how resilient is he? Can he get dinged and play? Who is their quarterback? Backup? They don't have one. He's hurt. Jack Miller. Next guy in line is John Kitna. You might remember the name from the NFL, his dad. But you know what? I think Billy has a plan. He's going to run the football. His escapability, as you saw on the 2-point play, where he rolled one way, come back on tackler missing, they fired a bullet in the end zone to Jaquan Favors. The play he made on that, that's John Elway-esque to me. I covered John for 10 years. And you cannot game plan against a guy like that because you don't know. Billy Napier doesn't even know what he's going to do sometimes. But his instincts are good. He's gifted with great wheels. He's got an unbelievable arm. Listen, I'm going to say this right now. I know people are going to be sick of hearing me talk about Anthony Richardson. But I've been telling you guys now for a long time, this guy's special. I've saw Cam Newton, okay? People say, well, he's no Cam Newton. I got news for you. At this stage, he is better now than Cam Newton was. I saw him here in Florida. But we'll see where he goes. Now, yeah, he could get dinged. He could get hurt. A lot of things could happen. But also saw a guy that is not a finished product. He's probably 85% of where he's going to be. What in the world will he do when he gets to be?
Yeah, he's just a kid.
Yeah,
he's just a kid.
So I think the upside is that there's a lot there. Offensive line, you're right. They're really good. They got 8 to 10 guys they can count on. The running game, which nobody talked about, is in place. And I loved how they came back when he fumbled the ball, came back to Johnson after he fumbled the ball, of all people. And he had a big night. And he is special. They got 3 running backs they can rely on. Their wide receivers are okay, although Trent Whitmore didn't catch a ball. I don't know what happened there. And their defense is decent. So what's that combination? Well, we'll see how the bounce of the ball goes. How good are the other guys? I'm not a Kentucky believer. I never believe they'd go 11-1. Still don't. Said so when my friend Chris talked about it. I think they're a good, solid football team. They're not next level. I'm not sure Florida is either. They're not on the same level as Georgia and Alabama, but anything can happen, guys. When a team starts playing well and your young players start believing, and Galvin, the coach, has a grip on the program, has got them functioning, keeping them level-headed, anything is possible.
Yeah, and there's a long way to go. And it's a 12-chapter book in the regular season. And I just watching the way Florida played the other day, if anything, these guys have bought all in on what these coaches are teaching and preaching. what the strength and conditioning coaches are talking about. And that has bled out into the fan base. I love the Orange and Blue Bloods pledge. And I say this about Auburn. You got to get rid of your self-loathing fans, people waiting for the other shoe to drop. You don't need them, okay? And I can tell you something. There's a big difference in the fans that are on a lot of the message boards and social media. They call themselves fans. They really are just gripers. Then when you go to a game and you're sitting there around season ticket holders that pay a lot of money, they're the ones. It's a different conversation in the stands. Yeah, there's some griping and complaining at any stadium, but the most hardcore people, in the ones that are in those stadiums, they have the team's back. People that travel across the country in a road game, they have the team's back. And that's what Billy Napier has done, has brought that blue collar 60 full minute work ethic back to Florida. And you just see it, and you know it when you see it, buddy.
Let me just have 30 seconds and I'll give it back to you and Frank and Jimmy.
No,
I just want to say the whole concept is, as we've been talking about all year, to college football fans, take your game back. Okay?
Yep.
We know about the NL. We know about how that might blow up yet if somebody doesn't play well and the sponsor drops in, whatever may happen. Know about the transfer report, all that stuff. Fine. It's up to the fans to step up and claim their team back, because ain't nobody else going to save it. No Nationals are, nobody. So I'm saying to the fans that Auburn, take a page. How about the blue and orange bloods for Auburn? Get yourself together, make up a pledge, get yourself committed. What I saw in the Swamp on Saturday night was a bunch of committed fans. I know their hearts are orange and blue. I think this is what programs need to do. Step up and take your program back, get committed, and then lots of things are possible.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. To me, you know, whatever fan base you have, and Nick Saban said it the other day. He said, everybody is talking about, for us, the LSU game or the Auburn game in November. He goes, we got a lot of football to be played between now. Let's enjoy the journey, the process, and that's where fans make themselves. You literally make yourself miserable. Yeah, and Paul Feinbaum put out a question on Twitter last week. He said, what are some superstitions that you have on game day? One of mine is I will identify a player that's a starter and just say, okay, I'm going to be that number. It makes me focus on the game. And I think about it. If I'm on those sidelines and I'm in the huddle, am I going to be over there griping because we're down 2 touchdowns? If I am, I'm not going to be on that field. If you're a fan, you need to think like that. Think about how your parents treated you at your games when you were a kid, how you treat your kids. I mean, look, I've been to some games, where my kids' teams won. I've been where they got their brains beat in, but I never left. And I never left a game early. And this stuff, Jerry Seinfeld did a great bit one time. He goes, what is it about our society today? Everybody's talking about, when are we going? When are we going? Okay, we're going to go. When are we going? As soon as we get there, we're going, okay, when are we leaving?
We're going outside.
What's up with, fans that leave the game early because they want to beat traffic. You know what? Why did you come? Get your tickets in the hands. Those players, trust me, they're looking up in the stands and they're feeding off of your energy. And you don't leave till they've met at midfield for the post-game prayer, okay? That's what, buddy, I'm with you. College football is owned by the fans. 18, 19-year-old kids don't drive this narrative. If you think they do, then you probably let your kids talk back to you. That's all.
Rob, you could not have been in more of a roller coaster than in section 147 of the Superdome on Sunday night. And, dude, I'm telling you what, we went up, down, round, loop the loop. Yeah. And by the time the damn thing was over and I was wandering outside the Superdome, heading back to my beautiful French Quarter apartment here, I was ready to get back in the damn roller coaster and do it again.
That's right.
That's what being a friend is. And let me tell you something. You talk about naysayers. There's a few of them in purple around here that I want to throw off this freaking balcony now. So hey, look, we're one 60-minute session. Now I was kind of hoping if it'd be 60 minutes in an extra couple minutes, but we're 60 minutes into Brian Kelly era, an era that could bring us not one but maybe even 2 national championships, I believe, and you guys are already getting happy feet. Are you kidding me? stand in the foxhole with your team and with your coaches and with your players, and you stick it out. Because look, if you don't want to be here in New Orleans, like it was yesterday morning, having coffee and having to read the post-mortem and take your medicine, and like when Rob asked me, you want to be on our first game broadcast back? I was like, you're damn right. The good players show up and stay at their locker even after the tough games. You don't want to be here with us now? Don't be with us when we're rolling and purple and gold confetti again in the same damn Superdome we just played in.
Yeah,
don't
and buddy,
be here.
Yeah, buddy, we just got a couple of minutes before Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports on Georgia, joins us, and then we're looking forward to getting you back on the round table Saturday. But I'm going to tell you, folks, watch Buddy Martin's show Monday through Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, Twitter. I get a thing on Twitter. It comes up. It alerts me. I tap on the button. Man, don't watch all this other crap on TV. Immerse yourself in sports with Buddy. Buddy, you got a cool set, but you get Shane Matthews and and Ben Chris Doring, and you got guys that have been there, done that, and also are not afraid to take a stand. Buddy, got a couple of minutes left. I know you got to say something, then let people know how they can follow you.
Well, I just want to say to the LSU fans out there, take heart. You saw the worst of it. Brian Kelly's going to get roasted. People won't run him out of town. I think you get a couple of weeks to breathe. Yeah. Although I think Mississippi State not going to be exactly a lay down. And then Auburn around the corner someplace. I don't have the schedule.
Yeah, October 1st. We're all meeting on the plains.
Yeah. So there you go. So I'm like, it's everywhere. You're going to lose games, whatever. Let's say if you're lucky enough to have your team win, which everybody did, but one, I'm sorry about that, LSU. Then build on it and enjoy it. And this makes me feel young again to see this happening in the swamp. Sure. To see the football team playing well. I love watching these teams play. I really am crazy about Billy Napier. I can say it now. I held off for a while. I'm a huge Anthony Richardson. I'm going to be at the wedding, by the way. I might be the best man. So anyway, it's good right now. It's not always going to be good. The question is, like you said, Frank, where will you be when it ain't good? That's the question. So fans are fans. They're fickle. They go up and down. I'm really looking forward to going back to the Swamp Saturday night and watching Kentucky come in here. Kentucky is a different Kentucky.
It's going to be a fascinating game.
It's going to be a really fascinating game. You're right. So and thank you guys. Do a great job. And if you ever want to hear me, I'm on at 9:00 at night, Monday through Thursday, on a new show on Sunday about 9:30. I say about with Ben Troop and Lauren Meadows and I doing the Orange and Blue Blood Sunday, which is built for the fans. And we had a huge crowd last week. We'll do it again this week. And, of course, we have Gator Bait. Subscribe if you care about Gator stuff. We got some great writers, Franz Beard, Carlton Reese, on and on and on. You go to GatorBaitMedia.com, check it out there, and check in with us on the show. So always good being with you guys, Jimmy, Frank, Rob. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you on the Saturday morning roundtable.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome, buddy.
I love hearing him talk, buddy. Man, a man with that experience, you better listen. All right, let's switch gears. Let's head over to the Classic City, Athens, home of a couple of good bands over the years. And Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, covers Georgia. Jordan, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us here on Sidelines. And you know what? Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they painted the town red and black. Oregon came in. They brought their fans. They brought Bo Nix in, and now he's 0-4 as a starting quarterback against Georgia. By far the worst beating he ever took as a quarterback. Georgia scores on their first 7 possessions. Crowd's going wild. 49-3 against the team that most people think, other than Utah, is the biggest threat to win the Pac-12. The takeaway from that, Jordan, let's go.
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. This team, I think, is going to be a playoff contender again. Obviously, long season. Obviously, a lot of hurdles to go to get to that point. But, it went as well as it could have gone for Georgia in that first game. The fact, again, 7 possessions, 7 touchdowns. Not only that, forcing 2 interceptions and looking at a situation where, they turned both those interceptions into 14 points once the offense got the ball back. I think it went as well as it could have possibly gone for Georgia. I'm really interested today when that AP poll comes out for really the first week of action. If Georgia maybe moves up to number 2, I don't know if they're quite going to, top Alabama, But I think there's a chance.
I think they will.
Georgia play. Yeah, I think the way.
I think they will.
I think the way Georgia played, I think the fact that Ohio State had the issues it had against Notre Dame, I think there's a legitimate chance Georgia moves up to number 2 as we go into the second week.
Jordan, and this Georgia team, the people that are out there questioning Stetson Bennett, I mean, what a performance this guy had. 383 yards passing, a bunch of touchdowns. All this guy does is put you in a position to win and doesn't put Georgia in a position to fail. What more can you ask for?
Yeah, I mean, and I think the thing that, again, and I think being on here preseason, I've harped on it because the point was made from Kirby and also from Stetson that he had the chance to get better. You know, during fall camp in 2021, he was taking third team snaps. I mean, he was behind Carson Beck and JT Daniels, and he had an entire year to work as a first team quarterback. He had the entire year to get on the same page with all these different receivers. And it showed up, you know, on that first drive alone of that game Saturday, Stetson hit 5 different guys in the passing game. And you know, I think he's got a chance to shine. You know, when it came to, you know, back in July when they went through media days, I didn't have him as my top 2 all SEC quarterbacks. He was my 3rd guy. I think a lot of people were even surprised by that. I mean, but, you know, to me, it was Hendon Hooker. And it was also Bryce Young being my first quarterback between those two. But I think he's got a chance to shine. And I think, you know, we're probably not going to see quite as much passing week to week as we saw against Oregon. I think they saw an opportunity with those defensive backs and we're ready to exploit it. But I think it's an opportunity for this offense to really air it out. And that's something that Georgia still gets dinged on when it comes, you know, to recruiting. A lot of still negative recruiting when it comes to wide receivers, you know, that other coaches are saying, look, you know, they haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since Terrence Edwards. You know, they're going to ground and pound and really rely on the run game. I think we will see more of a balance going forward, but I think they showed you on Saturday, they're not afraid if the opportunity is there to let Stetson air it out and to hit a few different guys in the passing game when he does it.
Yeah,
and I think for the first time, that was Stetson Bennett's most confidence he's ever had going in a game, and that was powerful. You saw that on display. I don't think you even had that last year, but him coming in, having a full work over the spring and summer as the number 1 quarterback, working with that number 1 offensive line, you saw that confidence on display. That kid balled again.
Yeah, I mean, 13 of 15 to start that game, and those 2 incompletions were throwaways. So, I mean,
that was David Green type numbers. David Green type numbers.
He did outstanding, and I thought it was funny in the post game. He was asked, "Was that your best game?" And he kind of thought, and he went, "Yeah, I think it was." I mean, like very just modest, like, "Yeah, I think that was
a great kid. He's a great kid."
Like we're gonna take a break here and then come right back with Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports on Georgia. Jimmy Hodge, Frank Duffy, Rob Browne here. And I got to say, too, this was a game where he probably felt like I need to go win this for my team. We got a lot of guys we're replacing on defense, but he also knows what the defense is capable of because he goes against them in practice every day. So we're going to get more into what you thought about the defense, what's not to like, but some newcomers on this Georgia football team with more sidelines on a Tuesday.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hey, Rob Browne talking with Jordan Hill here and Frank Duffy, Jimmy Hodge. Jordan, the defense was just absolutely dominant. And I don't know if that's a surprise to many people. It's not to me, but to be that dominant against the team, Oregon, that has some skill talent and is capable of winning. You know, they should win a bunch of games this year, but you absolutely dominated them. And you just, the game, you've got the book on Bo Nix. He couldn't do anything right. What's the upside? It's not fair to compare this defense to last year's generational Georgia defense, but they're pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, again, as we've talked about before, that defense lost 8 starters from last year, and then to come out in that very first game and put together that kind of performance was really impressive. And I was kind of struck yesterday. We talked to a few different players, and Kyrus Jackson, one of the receivers, was asked, basically, did you see that coming from the defense? And he was basically like, yeah, in the fact that look at how we recruit. You know what I mean? That was sort of his response was, we go out and get the best guys. So that's sort of the expectation. So, yeah, I think it was a situation where those guys knew the challenge. And I think that, for the most part, Oregon kind of kept it, pretty conservative throwing the ball. I mean, it was a lot of throws out to the flats. It was a lot of screens. There was really one shot they took with Bo, and that was a play where Malachi Starks put together an outstanding play, made a great interception. Yeah. I think because there's a lot of things, as I've written in the days since Saturday, like I don't really have a great feel for this defensive line because they really didn't get a lot of chances to show what they could do. I mean, not a ton of run plays. And then obviously once Georgia got on top of Oregon kind of had to start throwing the ball to even have a chance at coming back.
Yeah, I agree. That interception was one of the plays of the weekend in college football. Malachi Starks, just to be able to go back, look, he knew he was going to land flat on his back and make that play is just an incredible athletic performance out there. And Bo Nix, it just nothing's changed. I don't see anything different now than I did the last 3 years at Auburn. If he starts off in a game playing well, he gets better. If he starts off playing poorly, he gets worse. And that's Oregon better. They better find someone who can bounce back. They got a long way to go. Jimmy.
Yeah, well, you add to the fact that Bo is playing in a different environment, different coaching staff, different teammates, and it just makes it all the more obvious. And I just thought from a talent standpoint, the differential was pretty large. I mean, you could tell Georgia had very athletic, skilled players. They're big, strong, and very confident. And it just gives you an idea where, and I think Connor mentioned it best early in the show that Georgia and Alabama and are just on a different level. And I think people had Ohio State in that top tier, but I don't think you can put them there as of right now because Notre Dame had a really good scheme and they shut them down pretty well. So after a performance like that, put yourself in Kirby Smart's shoes. What do you do as a coaching staff to, motivate these guys and realize that even though we had a dominating win, what do we have to do to work on to get better in certain areas? And just how do you see them approaching things going forward? The next big test is going to be a week from Saturday in Columbia against the Gamecocks, who themselves are going to have a very stiff road test on Saturday in Fayetteville.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And you got the sense when we talked to Kirby yesterday, I mean, his real point was it's never as good as it seems. It is never as bad as it seems. And coming off a 46-point win, I think he's really going to let those guys know that it wasn't perfect, that there were opportunities there, missed assignments, things of that nature that need to be corrected. But,
Kirby will find something. There's no doubt. He'll find a list.
Oh yeah. Oh no. It's not gonna. Nobody had the day off on Monday. I can promise you that. But too, with the talent differential, like you were just talking about, Jimmy, that was something that Kirby talked about after the game, and was really straightforward, and was like, look, we have better players in Oregon. And I saw some people trying to make a big deal out of that. I mean, that's just the nature. Look at how Georgia's recruited. And, I mean, he talked about Dan Lanning being over there at Oregon. He was like, he's going to get them to that level. But the end of the day on Saturday was just Georgia was more talented and they took advantage of it. But I think they understand that there's things that can be corrected. Kind of a weird week coming off of that week 1 game, and now you play Stanford. It should be another blowout, another opportunity to get more young guys on the field. But I think they understand that there's a big test waiting, like you said, having to go to South Carolina. And I think they're going to make sure they are ready to go once that game gets here.
Hey, Jordan, you're right about Kirby Smart, and Frank alluded to it. He'll find something, and that's what the great coaches do. You can't let the guys get too happy. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. The teams that talk too much about the victory Saturday every day during the week, they forget they got one coming at them. No, you're going to beat Samford by, just almost by default. I mean, Samford's good, but it's Georgia. You're talking number 1, 2 team in the country. If it's not Alabama, it's Georgia. It is not Ohio State. Talk about, Malachi. Let's talk about McIntosh, running backs. Georgia can run the ball. They can throw the ball. But again, it all starts at quarterback. And I think what sets Stetson Bennett apart is the only people that believe in him that matter are the 6 inches between his ears. He believes in himself, and his teammates believe in him. And if you wonder why JT Daniels, you saw JT Daniels, the way he played West Virginia versus Pitt. I mean, it's so obvious, yet you've got fans that are stuck on stupid. They're looking at the recruiting rankings at the 4 and the 5 stars, and they forget about the journey of Stetson Bennett. Somebody's going to write bedtime story books one day about Stetson Bennett. People are going to read to their kids. Remember that kid everybody told he wasn't good enough? Go somewhere else. He went away. He came back. Hey, maybe you ought to consider, working at the pet store or doing something else, but you're just not going to play here at Georgia. And that kid hung in there, and he fought, and he led his team to the national championship in 2021 from a little town called Blackshear, Georgia, in South Georgia. He grew up hunting and fishing and competing. His name is Stetson Bennett IV. That's how powerful what he's doing is. It's beyond football, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes to show, and I kind of talked about this last night. We went on a Twitter space, and someone was asking about recruiting. For fans, it works when you look at those ratings and stuff like that. It's kind of a cheat sheet, but it's not the end-all, be-all. And it's not an exact science. That was the thing I kept stressing. It's not an exact science when you see these things.
Yeah.
And I know, I think going back to when I covered Auburn, nobody is more popular than the backup quarterback. So when Stetson was in there last year, everybody had it made up that, he wasn't good enough. He couldn't get Georgia where they needed to go. And I was struck, too, talking to Kirby yesterday. Someone asked him after that Alabama game, the SEC championship, when, he admittedly struggled through 2 interceptions, and one was a pick 6 that pretty much ended any chance Georgia had at coming back. Yeah. And, Kirby said there was no concern after that. He said, because, you guys don't get to see the practices. You guys don't get to see how he reps and how he worked. They had conviction about him even after last season when they had that first loss. This coaching staff has seen enough from Stetson to feel really good about what he's able to do. And credit to Stetson and credit to Todd Monken, too. I thought they called an excellent game on Saturday. Really loved some of the misdirection they used, the ways they got guys open. I thought Todd Monken put Stetson Bennett in a position to succeed. And again, credit to Stetson and those guys for going out there and making plays.
Well, what Gene Chizik talked about it last year going into the season on SEC Network. He said, everybody's all excited about JT Daniels being the Georgia quarterback. He goes, in his 4 starts for Georgia, they won him, but he was sacked 10 times. Think about that over a 12-game season if he's sacked 30 times. He doesn't have the mobility that Stetson does. Stetson's underrated, his ability to roll out, and he's got a strong arm he's only, 5'10", doesn't matter. Can't measure heart, can't measure the 6 inches between the ears, can you, Frank?
No, it's not the size of the dog and the size of fighting the dog. I will say, and by the way, we were joking about Kirby finding stuff. If Kirby didn't find any, Claude would find some for him and let him know about him. So that would happen anyway, right? So, but no, I think Georgia's biggest opponent right now is handling the expectations, right? When you are the returning national champ, and I know a little bit about that from 2020. The expectations that Georgia has, and by the way, that was the biggest gift Vegas has ever given anybody, was 16.5. That was like just throwing money, right? It's what they're going to do playing these games coming up, but having that eye on Alabama down the way, right? And it was kind of funny. Georgia playing a little earlier shot that cannonball across Bama's bow, but Bama sent one back in 55-0, right? So that's going to be the big thing for Georgia and Kirby, and I think he's perfect at doing that. He gets people in the moment, because if not, he's going to fabricate something to get them in that moment. I think that's Georgia's biggest test coming up, is those expectations from what they did last year and what they're expecting to do this year. Yes, they've got to play them, but they've got those eyes ahead. Kirby's got to keep them right now focused on every game that's coming up, especially in that SEC East.
Yeah,
There'll be a favorite for all of them. There'll be a favorite for all of them, but you got to have your eye on the prize.
Yeah, and I was struck too with what they showed during the telecast, and you guys might have seen it. They showed a shirt right before kickoff that said "Nobody cares," and basically that was the emphasis on last year was last year, and that's something that Kirby talked about all off season. He was like, "I'm not worried about these guys resting on their laurels." Because we lost a lot of the guys that made the plays that put us in that position. So I think that helps them tremendously. And I think it helps too, that Alabama isn't necessarily on the schedule. We all expect that to be the matchup in Atlanta, but it's not like they really can look ahead yet to, knowing we got to play the Crimson Tide. They can kind of focus on the task at hand, knowing if they get their job done and play well throughout the year, then very well play Alabama when it comes to December.
Well, that's the danger. If you got a long way to go in this season, is the fans are all looking Alabama, Georgia, rematch Atlanta, and then rematch.
Program's not.
Yeah, and here's
Program's
Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. Frank made a good point. A shot over the bow. Georgia destroys Oregon 49-3. Alabama beat Utah State 55-0. Now I think they slowed it down early in the midway through the third quarter. Are there only 2 or 3 really elite teams in the country? Right now there are. Got a lot of football to play. Injuries and all that stuff come into account, Jordan. But I like Georgia mentally because Kirby Smart says the right things, and I believe those guys are hungry. They're going, yeah, that was last year's deal. I want my own.
They want one too. Exactly.
Yeah, you're an injured player, and you're out for the season, and they give you a national championship ring, but you weren't on the field. Yes, you're a part of the team, but there's that inside of you going, God, I wish I'd have been out there making a play. I'm glad we won, but I wanted to physically, tangibly be a part of it, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of guys you could look on both sides of the ball that fit that. I mean, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, Smile Munden, 2 of the inside linebackers. I mean, you've got Kamari Lassiter, who's one of the new starting corners, and even these freshmen. I mean, we talked about Malachi Starks, and Michael Williams was the only true freshman that started on Saturday. Obviously, those guys weren't there, but a lot of those guys got to practice with the team during bowl prep and got a chance to be at the parade in January when they won it. They got really the slightest bit of taste of what that's like. And I think those guys are motivated, and there's a standard. That's the thing that Kirby Smart has said over and over is there's a standard here now. The challenge when you win so much is sometimes the fans do kind of get narrow-sighted and really wanted to pay attention to, well, what are we going to do when we play Alabama? That wasn't the way Georgia has ever been in my lifetime being around the program. Before Kirby got here, it was always Florida, Tennessee, sometimes South Carolina. But I think it's a situation where there are guys that are hungry. I think there are guys who appreciate what role they played on that title team last year. But they want to go out, like you said, and go get themselves a ring themselves.
Yeah, we've got about 2.5 minutes. So, Jimmy, rapid fire, 30 seconds or less. Questions for Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, Georgia.
Well, I think it's just important to just try to get better every day and prepare for every game because, again, just like last year, we saw it in the SEC championship game and the Natty, is that injuries are the one factor that you can't prevent, and you've got to be ready. You never know which player's going to get injured, at what position, how long he's going to be out, and you have to have guys ready at all times. And I think certainly for the Dogs, they're going to emphasize trying to be prepared as possible for every opponent. And then when they get a big lead, try to get as much as they can out of those second and third string guys to get as much game experience as possible and be ready to go in case they're needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. And two, a big benefit from that Oregon game, they got a lot of guys involved. And not only getting those guys reps, but think about what that atmosphere was like. You know, that wasn't what it's going to be like Saturday. Again, you know, it's going to be big being back in Sanford Stadium, but they are playing Sanford. You're talking about that Oregon atmosphere where, you know, a ton of Georgia fans. Obviously, the atmosphere was raucous. That was still a good team they were lined up against. I think it's worthwhile. And that's the thing, too, coming on this show. You know, we've talked a lot. I look at November as being so crucial for Georgia with some of the games they have at that point in the schedule. They got to get guys reps because somebody will get hurt along the way. There will be guys that get banged up, and they need guys they can count on when that happens.
Yeah, Jordan, we run out of time. Tell people how they can follow you. Look forward to having you on next week. As always, great stuff.
Appreciate it. Yeah. On Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill. We're at dogs247.com. You can also follow that Twitter at dogs247.
Hey, I love it, man. Look, college football season's underway. Long way to go, folks. And remember, go out and help somebody with the expectation of getting nothing in return. We most often see the face of Christ in the least among us. Ever have any doubt you live in the greatest country in the world? Go shake hands and give a veteran a hug, active duty. You'll know why. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow as we are every Monday through Saturday. Check us out on our website, www.sidelines.live. Listeners down on Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, Lake Martin, Central Alabama, all part of the Radio Alabama group. Got a great show lined up tomorrow. Dave Schultz, WNSP Mobile, Yancey Porter, Anwar Richardson from out in Austin, orangebloods.com. The Alabama-Texas. We're going to preview and break that game down from the Texas angle. Until then, everybody have a great day. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you tomorrow. We're out of here.
Go Tigers.